call meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we're going to have to do some changes on our agenda.
Strategic planning and hiring recommendation is probably removed, is that correct?
Yes. Well, it sounds like it.
Well,
Yeah.
unless Ms. Kruger gets here, then we'll deal with it when she gets here. But she was had car issues today on her way here, so the roads were bad.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, she is.
yeah.
Waiting for tow trucks, which might be busy.
Yeah.
And she was told that if she gets out, she should go home.
Engineer Pogozinski, would you like to come forward?
Wait a minute.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay. I move to approve the agenda with the possibility of adjustments for Ms. Kruger. There's a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm the one in the fog.
No, I'm there.
I move to approve the minutes.
I have a
Present.
correction to make in the minutes.
Yeah, okay.
Teresa wasn't here. It says that she was here.
Oh,
okay.
that's right. I
Yep.
did see that
Look like
also.
that.
I saw that.
I saw that
caught
too.
Other than that, with that one correction, I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Thank you. I didn't see it. I didn't get it.
Oh,
I
you
didn't
weren't.
have any
Motion
contact
carries.
all week. so-
Now, Engineer Pogozinski, would you like to come forward?
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
A week ago from yesterday, we had a bid opening on a paving job on County State Highway 14. We had two bidders on the project. The low bid was Concrete Foundations with a bid of $4,641,920.45. Our cost estimate that we had prepared was $3,766,218.88. So the bid came in substantially above our cost estimate. We did find that our estimate had some flaws in it. This is only our second concrete paving job in the county, so there are some aspects in our estimate that probably have the low side. We also only had two bidders. We were hoping to get more bidders, so I don't know if some of the numbers came in a little bit higher too because of what we had for bids, or if it was totally based on the cost estimate. But either way, the bids came in substantially over our estimate and what we had in advance previously, because it was based on the estimate. So we have a couple options in front of us. The first option is that we can we really can't award the bid today without having additional funds available. So we can elect to not award the contract today, go back to the state requesting advancing funds through a new resolution like was awarded previously. And I spoke with the state. They feel that the funding is going to be available if you want to go that route. The second option is to reject all bids and rebid it. We can look at rebidding it concrete, 6 miles. We can look at rebidding it asphalt for the entire length with what we previously approved or board passed a resolution for advancing. I did a life cycle cost analysis based on the actual numbers we had from the bids that came in on the concrete side. And compared it against the asphalt estimate that we prepared to see where the life cycle cost analysis falls now that we have a concrete number based on the estimate of both asphalt and the concrete side. The cost analysis number shows that in a 35-year life expectancy, when you factor in the cost of crack sealing, the asphalt pavement, the wet asphalt route, along with seal coating, and maintenance on the asphalt side versus replacing some concrete slabs to go concrete, it really shows that the cost difference is a wash. It comes out to like somehow net present worth difference of $200. It's unbelievably close when I use the numbers. Concrete, I can argue that the maintenance is going to be less than what I estimated here. Asphalt, I can argue that the maintenance is going to be less than what I'm estimated. So,
Pretty close.
Really, it's close. So, what I'm looking for today from the board is, do we want to pursue going concrete the way that we bid it out, advance additional funds, which has potential of pushing back projects that are in our 2018-19 schedule, or do we want to reject both bids, rebid it out, and then elect to go, if we reject the bids, bid it out, do we want to go asphalt or concrete? Is there a preference by the board? 35-year life expectancy versus cycle, it shows it's going to be similar costs either way. So do we want to spend the money up front, or do we want to spend less money up front and have more maintenance costs in the long run?
Do you have a preference one way or the other?
No, not really. This roadway has nice wide shoulders compared to a typical roadway in this county, so it's a relatively easy job to do concrete on versus a lot of our other roadways, and it's nice to get some more competition in this county, so multiple bidders, and have that option available to us. At the same time, going concrete on a roadway that has relatively low volume, if we go asphalt, we're not worried about having rutting or different strength issues on the asphalt side because of the traffic causing impacts. It's going to be basically the weather impact of pavement, whether it's concrete or asphalt. So,
Which one's going to go faster as a project is concerned? Which?
Asphalt will go down quicker. There is less impact to the public when it goes down because they can mill it up. They can keep traffic going through. Concrete roadways when we shut down. They'll probably pave about a mile a day. So that means that total closure over the entire roadway would probably be 3 weeks worth of paving operation plus shouldering, of which the road might be shut down during some of that time. They'll do it in stages, so it'll be shut down for a couple days at each location.
Mm-hmm.
So residents getting in and out of their houses, they might need to go out one way for a while. Then, as the paving operation goes by their house, they might not be able to get out of the roadway for a couple days, and then at that point, then they can start driving back out the other way. So there is, probably a little bit more impact to the public on the concrete side than the asphalt.
But looking at the long term, it's almost better to do the concrete because of less maintenance in the long run.
Really, that's where you come down to the life cycle of cost analysis, which really shows that the cost of the county is the same either way. So
Okay.
it's just where do we want to spend the money? Do we want to spend the money on the pavement that has less maintenance, or do we want to save, roughly $1 million up front, and then you have more cost of maintenance over the next 2 decades?
Yeah.
Here's a question, do we want to look at doing asphalt on this one and saving the concrete, like you said, for a project that has more traffic, where it's more better utilized?
Yeah, you can go.
Asphalt on this one.
Yeah, and then if
concrete-
there's another one,
concrete
yeah,
later.
on another project that
Heavier.
has more traffic, if it's not really necessary.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, we can definitely go that route.
This is county
This is
24?
14.
14, okay.
Which goes from South Caledonia about 2 miles, and then
Right.
cuts across over to Truck Highway 26, a little bit north of New Malden.
Okay, sure.
So traffic volume on the Caledonia end, it has about 550 cars per day, or vehicles per day currently. Once you get down to the 26 end, there's a little over 200 vehicles a day. So when you compare that to other roadways, County 8, we've spent in paving and concrete that has currently about 900 vehicles a day. Get up on, like Trunk Highway 44 has about 4,500 vehicles a day. Our busier county roadways have about, in the rural areas, have about 1,000 vehicles a day. Once you get into City of Crescent, we have pushing 10,000 vehicles a day on a couple of those roadways.
Wow.
I think Caledonia would have 6,000, 5,000 on County 3 towns. So
quick question for everybody. You brought up something, it just struck a thought. Is that something that, you know, like I know concrete, they always talk about, like the interstates and stuff are going a lot to concrete just because of the fact that they hold up for heavy traffic and whatever. But is that something else to look at? You know, you get a heavy, heavy traffic road that you're not doing the maintenance over so many years that you're not slowing down traffic 3 or 4 times in that 30-year cycle of doing maintenance? Like, is that one of the other big factors or not necessarily?
Yeah, I mean, the more that you impact traffic, the more that you're gonna get for complaints, the more it impacts commerce and local residents, so you don't want to be doing maintenance. And that's why we always try to do everything on much open traffic if possible. You know, interstate traffic, there's a lot more vehicles, so when that roadway does get shut down or gets put into, I should say, single lane, you know, it slows down traffic and it's slowing down a lot of products going back and forth. There's a lot of extra fuel that gets wasted from going through construction zones and stuff, sitting delays and type of stuff. So, so you do look at that type of impact. You know, with our traffic volume, you know, you have a small number of people that are impacted. You know, so those individuals, it does impact their cost of money, but it's a small number versus the general population of the county.
If we rebid this, do we have to decide whether to do which kind we're going for, or can we rebid it on both?
We can bid it multiple ways. We can bid it just concrete the entire length or half of it, 6 miles, and we can do the next 6 miles the following year. We can bid it asphalt, which we have to go asphalt. I recommend doing the entire project in 1 year. Or we can do an alternate bid, which there's different ways of doing it. We can do straight up dollar for dollar, whichever one is cheaper. We can bid it with a factor in there where you give concrete a little bit of a bump on the cost because of the life expectancy and the lower maintenance. So there's multiple ways of doing it. Most counties have been electing to choose one or the other instead of going the alternate bid. Winona County currently has a project being bid on alternate bid right now, and I believe that they put some additional items in their asphalt bid that they're looking at more straight up dollar for dollar. Wabasha County bid it with factor in there several years ago now. So there's different ways of doing it.
Well, irregardless, if we were to, you know, consider asphalt, that it's going to have to be rebid anyway, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Kind of like the idea of choices. You know, but equitably done. You know.
Now, if we did a, and maybe this is more of a question for the board and Shar and maybe Attorney Yap, but if we did a bid where we said, hey, let's go out and see what it costs to do asphalt and what it costs to do concrete, do you have to pick the lowest price because there's 2 different options?
That's
Or
what
do you kind of say, well, here's 2, treat them as separate bids, and you just say, oh, we're going to reject this side?
No, typically what you do is you determine a factor up front. So it might be a 1-to-1, you know, low cost is what you select. It might be a, you know, 1.2, you know, 20% advantage to concrete, or whatever percentage is determined. And then at that point, you come back and you select the low bid after applying that factor to it.
If we did 2 bids, though, I mean, you say, hey, we just want to see what, you know, like you're saying dollar for dollar. If you said, hey, we're going to bid paving this road, and all of a sudden the bids come back in, say asphalt's, you know, 3% cheaper, or whatever it is. But at that time, the board says, you know what, let's concrete it. Are we able to do that, or are you locked in because it's a bid and you have to take the lowest bid?
That's where you get that factor in advance. So prior to the bid, the county's going to decide if we will pay 20% premium for concrete, or 30%, or 10%, whatever percentage you know, we decide as a county. And then when the bids come in, then you adjust it based on that. So if asphalt's, you know, greater than 9% less, then you select asphalt. If concrete's on the low side of that factor, then you select concrete.
Is that what you're talking about with the alternate bid?
Yes.
Okay, so you were talking earlier about going 1-to-1.
You can do it 1-to-1, or you can do it, you know, you can add
The factor.
add a factor and make it a 1.2 to 1, 1.3 to 1, whatever is county decide. And I could go back and redirect some numbers and figure out what that factor really should be. And I would talk to the state as well, Waukesha County, to see what they would recommend for that factor as well.
So more or less, they get a handicap on the concrete to see where, if it comes in, right?
Yeah, and the reason why you do that is because of that reduced maintenance in the future.
Sure.
You know, the asphalt road that's there now, how old is it? How did it stand up?
The last overlay on it was done in 1991, so it's 20 hectares.
Mhm.
And, you know, it probably should have had something done to it sooner than now, you know, came down to funding and availability of staff. You know, really that pavement should have probably been touched, you know, 5 years ago. Usually you figure 20 years is a good building for asphalt. You know, we are getting 25 years on some roadways. Some of them needs to stretch it longer. On the concrete side, typically you're figuring 35 plus years.
Mhm.
And
So
being
that's-
low vehicle might last a lot more than 35 years.
That's true. Yeah, in our county,
Right.
really, you know, the weather
25
has
is
a
pretty good.
big effect, you know, the plowing every winter, the salt we put on the concrete, you know, impacts that. On the asphalt side, you have the sun heating up that pavement and oxidizing and weathering the oils within the pavement, so the weather plays a big impact. That's what-
I like the idea of lower cost, speed of application, you know, that part of it on the asphalt side, but I guess I wouldn't mind looking at it both ways. You know, if we can put together a
We can look at the
process.
road.
Yeah. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so I'm open to either option. I don't want to toss out, you know, down the road, toss out either asphalt or concrete. They're both good options for the county.
Right.
You know, on this one project, like I said, you know, I think accepting the bid right now, knowing that we don't have the
Funding for it.
funding available, you know, we're looking at advancing 2017 funding to make this happen. And I go back to the state with an additional resolution.
Yeah.
I think it's really tough to do anything with this project. You know, if we can not do anything for 2 weeks and try to get that resolution passed next week and then come back to the board, I think it might be better to reject the bids and then
I
be able to
think so.
more time
Mhm.
to decide what we want to do.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea to reject it at this time, and I like the idea of getting bids for both and
Yeah.
going from
Mhm.
there with the factor and, you know, the percentage difference.
Is that a motion?
I'll make that a motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, discussion, I'm sorry.
You know, all I was gonna say is I agree with Steve, you know, I think, you know, that the speed of application and the cheaper price is an incentive on asphalt. And the flip side is you got the longevity of the concrete. It's kind of a
That's where
conundrum,
it's
I guess
kinda-
I don't.
yeah, let's look at both,
Yeah,
you know.
I agree.
Mhm.
That's a good sound decision.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We don't have anything on our consent agenda. Anything new with the,
No, I have to meet with Mark and John.
okay, all right.
Those appraisals.
Has everyone had a chance to look at the claims yet?
Here, we'll do the easy one first.
Okay, I got it.
I didn't sign that book yet
Do you wanna go to the number 2, and by then I'll be done looking at these?
Oh, correct. We were given a copy of something to add to our policy book. And the reason we're talking about it is because if things get left behind, we could be liable. So we want to add a policy for personal items at public meetings. And it's going to be under safety risk management. Individuals must at all times attend to items of personal property they bring into county buildings. This includes items brought to public meetings held on county property, including but not limited to technical equipment, backpacks, handbags, and jackets. Items must be properly removed by the individual upon their exiting the room for any reason. And then it says Houston County is not responsible for damage to or loss of unattended or abandoned personal property. Do I have a motion to make this policy?
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion?
This is pretty much common wherever you go. And we never had anything in our policy?
No, we don't.
Okay.
Well, take for instance, at the last Board of Adjustment meeting, someone brought in a musical instrument for absolutely no reason other than to probably break it out and play it at the meeting. There was no other reason for it to be there.
Okay.
So I think you should be able to tell people to take it back out to your car or don't bring it.
Well,
look at
this
it-
just refers to the things left
Yeah.
unattended.
This is just
Yeah.
the ones that are left here and, or
Mhm.
not.
Or if someone walks out of the room, they need to take their things with them.
I guess I see it as just kind of like at the airports too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The sad reality is we live in a world where people and individuals can't be trusted.
Mhm.
And you look at how many incidences, and you look at, for example, like the Boston Marathon thing, you leave a backpack unattended, you don't know what's in it. Obviously, things can happen. The flip side of that is, if you leave a camera standing up, somebody hits it, knocks it over, you weren't
Whose
there.
fault?
Now everybody's in a grudge and who did it and why, and
Mhm.
it just leads to a lot of issues, which I think most people would say it's common sense, it's your stuff.
Mhm.
Obviously, take care of it and stand by it, but if we have to put it in a policy as a reminder, I'm fine with that, so.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now that everyone has seen the claims, do we have a motion to approve the claims, human services, and license center disbursements?
I move to approve the claims, human services, and license center disbursements.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Commissioner Chomey, would you like to start the commissioner reports?
Sure. Last Tuesday, I attended the Joint Board of Health with Fillmore County over in Mabel at their community center. It was a very good program presented by Mary Marshall and the nurses from Fillmore County. We had some very informative things that we talked about the Zika virus and the implications it might or might not have in our county. That was very good. And maybe Judy, you can help me with some of the things we did on when you
Well, I brought with the handouts that we got because it was really an interesting
It
meeting.
was very good.
And they talked about the areas of public health responsibility. We had a speaker, her name was,
From the Minnesota Department of Health.
right, Mary Orban, nurse consultant from local Public Health Act performance measures is what she talked about. And it was just really good information and good discussion that was had there as to how to prepare for outbreaks of the Zika virus and other things that are going around. And they talked about promoting healthy communities and healthy behavior and the spread of communicable diseases and environmental hazards and how to prepare and respond to emergencies and assure health services are available for everyone. And from now on at our Joint Board of Public Health, we're going to have 4 meetings a year, and we're going to have a speaker at each one. So it's a learning thing besides just talking about what goes on in the 2 counties. I'm sorry I took over.
I'm glad you took notes. Thank you. And then last Friday, I was involved with the interview process for a new position, and Tess was going to have a recommendation today, so I won't mention who it was until she gets back. But we had 3 good candidates, and we spent the morning interviewing
Talking
them.
about maintenance.
Yeah, maintenance. So we did select somebody on Friday, and I'll leave it up to Tess to announce that.
Sounds good.
That's all I have.
Yeah, in the last 5 years, I've only missed 2 meetings, one when my mother died and one to go to Cancun this week. So I exchanged the white sands of Cancun yesterday for the white snow of Minnesota.
Welcome home.
It's wonderful. It was a family trip, so that
Good.
was kind of fun.
Oh, fun.
I had nothing.
Yeah, and I was also at the Joint Board of Health, and I won't dwell on any more than you've already done. And attended a land use training in Mankato on Thursday, which was a very good session. I think I recommend that to anybody that sits on the Planning and Zoning Board to attend that.
Was
Yeah,
that an
is it-
all-day session?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
What did they go over? Like what was like?
How
This
it's
whole
authorized.
packet of
Mhm.
stuff.
Starts with how it's authorized, land use is authorized to the counties, cities, and townships. And,
Can I
would you-
chime in?
or you got, yeah, you got yours with.
Well, I'm sorry, I
Mhm.
thought it was just really so good.
Mhm.
And some of the things that they talked about were like making sure that when you vote on things, that you say why you're voting. Give the findings right as you're voting, which is something that we're working on hard in our county. They talked about a lot of different lawsuits, you know, and gave us reference to lawsuits that we could look up for more information on things. There were a couple of things that, as we were coming home, we got heard different things, so we want to get back together and process some of it again. They talked about, you have to remember that to look at your ordinance, because you don't want your ordinance to say self-impose, no, something about undue hardship. You want it to say self-imposed hardship. There were just a lot of tips about how to update your ordinance. And that's a lot of what this whole pamphlet is about. And if you guys want, we could get copies of this made and get it to each of the
I would like a
commissioners.
copy.
Would you guys all like a
Sure.
copy of it?
Yes.
It's really good information. But the best part was the question and answers that were going on the whole time. It was a lot different than last year's we went to. Last year was in such a huge room that didn't have as many questions going on. And this year it was in a little smaller room and people were more willing to ask questions, and there was a lot of conversation that went on. And they had said we were going to try and get out of there early. We actually ran late because there were so many questions. It was
Put on by
very good.
Jay Squires and Scott Anderson.
Great.
And they do an excellent job. They keep you focused and interested all along.
Dana, I just got a text from Tess, and she wants you to go forward with the recommendation, and that we need to make a
Yeah.
decision on it today.
She did.
Yeah. It
Does she
says,
have any paperwork
she
on
says, please ask Dana to speak on behalf of my hire request.
It didn't come in on.
No, it's just a text she
Straight
sent
to
out
you?
because she's,
She's
Does
in
she
the
have any-
ditch.
she's,
Does she have any
she said the
paperwork?
tow truck just
I can't
got
remember
there.
the
Mhm.
full name of the guy.
It was on the handout, I believe. Was it-
We got a
Lisa?
handout?
Yeah.
Did we?
I know she emailed.
I didn't see.
Oh, maybe it
I-
came out on a late email?
I believe
that
so.
could be
Yeah,
there.
he emailed it out direct.
Okay.
Sharp, copy us on that, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm not seeing an email.
No,
I don't
we
have
don't
it.
have an email from her. You know, there was email trouble over
There was.
the weekend, and so it could be that we didn't get it. Would you want to forward it to all of us now?
I will do that.
Thank you. Okay, then we'll give everyone a few minutes to look at it when it gets
Yep,
to
I
you.
did.
And then she said it should be written, all should be written on agenda request at bottom of page. So that must be what she's referring to
Yep,
as the
and I
paperwork
sent
that.
it, so hopefully you're able to pull it up.
Yep, got it.
get it, Dana,
No,
yet?
not yet.
Oh. Shar sent it, and it's an attachment.
Yeah, it's in an attachment.
Did you get it?
Yep.
Greg Olson?
Yep.
Okay, shall I print a copy or two?
Whoops,
There you
I
go.
went too fast.
Okay, so Dana,
Yeah,
if you want
I can
to,
just,
if you want to read that off.
yeah, we had interviews last Friday, like I said, and we recommend hiring Greg Olson as probationary building maintenance foreman, C41-2 at step 1, at an hourly rate of $19.56, effective March 14th, 2016, conditioned upon a successful completion of a background check.
Where does he come from, Dana? Do you know? offhand?
Winona.
Winona, okay.
Thank
And
you.
you had three others?
So-
or
We had
three?
we had three
Okay.
total.
So we need a motion to recommend to offer the position to Greg Olson.
I'll make a motion to offer the position to Greg Olson.
Do we have a second to that?
I'll second it. on
Any
Dana's
discussion?
recommendation.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to hire Greg as a probationary building maintenance foreman.
Oh, that was it, huh? Looks like that was all. It has a little note on her little agenda, County Veteran Service Officer.
Yeah, I don't know why, I think that just is a typo.
A typo, okay. Because we already did that.
Right,
a
I
month
think
ago.
she updated a form that she
Okay.
had used before.
I still didn't get that.
Okay.
Okay, so besides going to the land use and the public health thing, I went to another meeting last night. Some staff from our county had been to this all day. It was a forum on, well, the whole day was centered on drug use in the area, and it was held at the waterfront in La Crosse. So there was a lot of information that came into our county in ways to work through all of this, and it was, from what I've heard, just excellent all day. I didn't get to the day part of it, but I went to the night part of it last night, and it was one of the most interesting presentations that I've been to. First there was a family that spoke. Their son had been struggled with drug and alcohol for 11 years, and he started at 11 years old with drinking beer, and it progressed to heroin, and he spent 10 years addicted, and now he's been off for 7 years. But it was so interesting. It was, they talked about how once you're addicted, you're always addicted. You may be sober, but you still have the addiction, and how we need to change our way of thinking in order to help people understand what heroin will do to them. They said that 80% of heroin addicts start with prescription drugs from grandparents, parents, relatives. Medicine cabinets that they can get at is where they're getting their prescription drugs, and then after they can't get that, they go on. In this area, the meth is coming from Minneapolis and the heroin is coming from Chicago, but they're both coming out of Mexico. It's just the cartels are coming at it from different ways with different drugs, but that they're so affordable to people that it's scary. In La Crosse, they've seen an increase of thefts, and that they talked about making sure that you keep your, like when you park your car, lock your doors. Don't make it so people can take things out. That there's things left in yards that have been stolen. There's just been so much more theft than they've ever seen before, and they feel it's due with the increase of the drug use in the area. And they talked about kids being the biggest victims. They're abused because of people around them doing drugs, and there's sexual assaults going on also. They don't have a firm number because some of the toxicology reports aren't back yet, but there have been 9 deaths in La Crosse County related to drug overdose since the beginning of the year. And 2 years ago, they had none, not any drug-related deaths. So that was really interesting. 56% of the inmates at La Crosse County are addicted to drugs. And they have a hard time telling whether whether the inmates have mental health issues or if they're just withdrawing from drugs. So it was really good. It was really powerful, and they're going to look at having more of these presentations coming in to get people more aware. And they say the more you can learn about drugs, the better. So every chance you get to get educated on it, get educated. But it was just awesome. And there's a web page that the Liebert family has, and it's www.yourchoice-live.org, and it was fantastic. So that's my report.
I noticed if you go to the county's webpage and who's in custody, you'll see it's almost all drugs.
A lot of drug-related things in our county. I mean, it's not, the thing was in La Crosse County, but there were, like our sheriff was there and our public health nurse. Three people from public health. There were
and
some
three
from the schools
the
that were there.
sheriff's department.
They had hoped to get 80 people at the daytime thing, and there were over 200 that
Gee.
attended it. So it was, people see the need for this. And last night for the town hall meeting, or whatever you want to call it, the forum they said that they hoped to get 80 people there. I don't even know the count because the waterfront was packed. There wasn't a seat open in there. It was that many people came to find out about it, and a lot of questions from very concerned people that are dealing with it all the time. So, okay. So I just learned so much in 1 week. It was great. Let's see. Is there anything else that we need to address before we go into public comment? The department head meeting, Dana and Justin, is at 1 o'clock today.
Mhm.
Okay, so we'll move to public comment. I just want to remind people again to be respectful during your public comment, and to remember that we don't bring up the names of people or public employees here, or things that are under litigation. Would anyone like to address the board? Ms. Krogstad?
Good morning, Commissioners. Yvonne Krogstad, Caledonia Township. Excuse me. In my comment last time, I asked the board to reassess providing county vehicles to employees for personal use. Chairman Starley, have you assigned another board member to look into it? Eliminating that unnecessary perk can save a few $1,000s a year. While it is not a great deal of money, you should be fiscally responsible and save money every place possible. Or don't you care that you throw our tax money around like there's no bottom to the barrel? Also, at your last meeting, Commissioner Chomey questioned a claim by the architect. Since there hasn't even been a decision as to the location, how can the architect be working on the project? Since there's no county administrator, it is your duty to watch the expenditures by various departments. Another issue, watching the video of the Board of Adjustment hearing on February 18th, I have come to the conclusion that it is your duty as commissioners to replace everyone on that commission. They don't abide by the rules of the ordinance, and that is a gross miscarriage of justice. One member in particular questioned what the consequences would be if they ruled in favor of the complainants. He did not base his decision on the facts, but instead on what would happen. Because it would mean a mine would shut down at least temporarily, he voted to uphold the actions of the former zoning administrator who caused the situation in the first place by not enforcing the ordinance as his job required. Another observation, at the January 28th hearing, the person who filed a complaint against the alternate member of the Board of Adjustment was kept confidential. However, at the February 18th hearing, the county attorney named every one of those who filed complaints against two of the board members. Why is that? It's another example of unequal treatment of county residents, and I believe the attorney violated confidentiality laws. You demand respect. That won't happen until you demand that all county employees follow the laws and treat all residents equally and fairly. Thank you.
Do you have any?
I can respond to that. I spoke to Ms. Eric Kruger. Those are not considered land use complaints, and so they're not subject to them.
Okay.
Well,
Is there any other person who would like to comment?
hold on, what, I guess
I
I'm just
didn't
curious.
hear what he said.
Attorney, can you repeat that real quick?
I spoke to Ms. Eric Kruger, and those were complaints, ethics complaints, and they were not considered connected enough to land use issues, so they were not considered to be subject to the privacy rules.
Does that, because somebody filed a complaint on a committee member based on article in the paper, would that kind of be the same, that it's not closely enough tied to a land use issue? I mean, that was based on an article, not a land use issue, would that?
And I'm hesitant to get into hypotheticals. I guess my thought would be it's really a case-by-case basis, and it's you apply the facts to the law there. So, I mean, given that situation, that was the thought that was driving the actions.
So if you file a complaint against somebody for writing an article, you can be confidential, but if you file a complaint against ethics, you're not confidential? Is that kind of what we're...
And again, I know I'm trying to be obtuse here, but I guess they're really fact specific. And I mean, if you want to write that in an email, and I can try to answer that better to you.
Sure.
Is there any other public comment? Yes?
Donna Buckby, Yucatan Township. I take great exception to the fact that we were treated in a discriminatory manner by having our names read off when the other person a month before had privacy. I have stood, and other people have stood before this board and have met with some of you privately repeatedly and told you about the fears for our safety, and yet this was just not taken seriously. So I know that Houston County Protectors, a member of Houston County Protectors, had asked that the Sheriff's Department have metal detectors, because we are in fear for our safety. And we have asked for this in the past too. I want to correct an article in the paper that said that metal detectors in the Sheriff's Department was there to protect the Board of Adjustment members. We asked for their protection. So when we have stood here repeatedly for years talking about the threats and intimidation to us and our fear for our safety, and this was just totally disregarded.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? There's no further comments. Is there any other business to come before the board?
I move to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.